So this is really starting to turn into kind of like a Minnesota podcast for me
Oh
because,
yeah,
well, I've had these are some of the people I've had on from Minneapolis. Lori Barbero from Babes in Toyland, everybody's
awesome.
best friend.
Oh God,
Greg Norton from Husker Du, the
yeah.
Scrunchies, which are a fairly new indie rock punk band, and then this up and
Really?
coming band called Loki's Folly.
Yep, yep.
And now we have the great Cindy Lawson.
Oh, I I love all those people you just talked about. That's fantastic. I'm so glad you got to meet them and talk to them.
Yeah, Lori Barbero, I'm sure you know her if you've been in the music scene there. She's just something else, that one, I'll tell you. It was kind of, she cried during the podcast. It was kind of hard for me because I could relate to what she was crying about, her band, and what has happened with the singer and everything, and it's just really hard but it's one of my
Yeah.
most popular shows.
Yeah, no, I've known Lori since the mid 80s. Um, she is she's just so cool, but so down to earth. I mean, she's done
Yeah.
so many things. I mean, not only, she's like a big world famous star, but she also had a record label. She was producing other bands and managing other bands. She's all about um she was all about getting the good stuff out there, and just a kind and sweet and lovable person. And yeah, I'm so glad you got to meet her.
It's amazing that she was Courtney Love's assistant. To
Yeah,
me, to
well,
me,
yeah,
that's
I
seems
don't
like
know
it
how
would
much
be
she told you, but yeah, that was like crazy.
seems like it would be the most difficult job in the world to have. But
Yeah, yeah.
so before we talk about your break from music and your comeback, I want to go all the way back here. Did you
Okay.
grow up right in the city of Minneapolis?
No, I grew up in Bayport, which is a smaller town south of Stillwater. Most people know where Stillwater is. It's kind of a historic little town on the St. Croix River. And Bayport was an even smaller town south of it. And it was a factory town. It's where they had the Anderson Windows factory. So every day at 7 and 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. and 11 p.m., you couldn't drive down the one main street we had because that was when the shifts change, you know.
Oh,
So everything kind of shut down for a good half hour while all the traffic went through. We did we don't even have a stoplight in Bayport. At least I don't think so. I mean, they may have now, but as what I remember is that, yeah, it's it's very, very small, really sweet little town.
um, was your family into music? I mean, do you remember when you first started listening to music?
Well, my mother and older siblings used to play piano, but then
Oh,
we moved into a different house and there was no room for the piano. And that was when I was a baby. So I never got to learn to play piano when I was growing up, which I think would have been, I mean, water under the bridge, but piano is like such a basis for so much music. Anyway, my older siblings who were 10 years and plus older all listened to, they had Motown, and my sister especially all the Beatles stuff, my brother all the Beach Boys stuff. I remember my brother standing in the living room with the hairbrush and singing, to the Beach Boys and Herman's Hermits and stuff like that. So, I was born in 61, so I absorbed all that really heavily. Just loving loving the whole, all the Spector, Phil Spector stuff and Motown and all that stuff. And then when I was an adolescent and teenager myself, it was the 70s. So it was all the
Oh,
glam stuff. But then of course I have a huge soft spot in my heart for Linda Ronstadt and the Carpenters and that music. So yeah, that's where it all came from.
yeah, the 70s, I'm also a product of the 70s, and I loved being a teenager
Yeah.
in the 70s because so much was going on back then. Pete, you try to explain to people what 1977 was like, and it's just almost incomprehensible in this day and age that so
No.
much could happen. When did you start playing the guitar?
Well, I started an all-female band in 1985 in Minneapolis. And
Is this the Clams you're talking about?
yeah. And I picked up the guitar. I decided I wanted to play guitar. I had done singing in bands before and had written some, but realized that really, if you want to get your point across fully, you kind of have to present your idea, on a good framework, and learning guitar helped me do that. And yeah, so that was 85. We were active from 85 to 89.
Yeah, I was definitely going to talk to you about them because in a second. I just want to ask you though, you said 61, so I'm just doing the math here. So I'm assuming you graduated around 79, 80.
Mhm.
So what did you do between then and 85? Did you go to college or?
I went to college. I was a single mom. I like I said, I was singing, covers and some cover bands, but it was like starting in 78 in Minneapolis. There was, I was still too young to get into the bars because it was 21, but like friends would sneak me in to the Longhorn, which I'm sure Greg
Yeah,
and Lori told you about.
yeah.
The Longhorn was the place to be, and got to see bands like the Suburbs, who are actually still playing to this day, which is pretty amazing. So yeah, so I really, it took me a while to decide what I wanted, and I guess it just took me it just took me time to figure out what I really wanted to do and to find the people I wanted to do it with. I ended up putting an ad in the paper, and you get all kinds of interesting replies.
What was that, like the City Paper? Is that the name of the
Yeah, the
twin?
City
Yeah,
Pages.
City
And
Pages. Yeah, it's
well,
a famous.
actually, back then I think it was called the Sweet Potato.
Oh
It
yeah.
changed its name to the City Pages. And then there was also the Twin Cities Reader. And I mean, there were, the number of females playing music in Minneapolis in the 80s, it's probably less than 10
Wow.
that I can think of. And you just had to kind of like keep pushing, and it was kind of cool because when I had put in the ad for looking for female musicians, this one woman, her name is she had her own band called the Blue Up, Anna Voog. She also did a webcam thing way back in the 90s before it was really done. But she had just started her band that summer of 1985. So, you know, there was a network there to kind of meet people. And of course, Lori was around, and I think Babes in Toyland started maybe in 86 or 87. And then there were Zuzu's Petals.
Oh yeah, I remember them. I forgot
Yeah,
about them.
came later. Of
Yeah.
course, early to mid 80s, there was a band in Minneapolis called Tete Noir that that did all original music. And so they were also you know, we would also play with them, and kind of branch out, you know.
Did you go out and see like the Replacements and Husker Du in those bands a lot before you
Yeah,
started? Because that was like late 70s. 84 is when the Let It Be record came out, and that's when they really exploded. So were you around that scene a lot?
yeah. Well, they played so before my band actually started, I would go out and I would see them. Husker Du, I had seen them probably back in 77 or 78,
Wow. Early.
and didn't really think much of them the very first time I saw them, because they were opening for the Suburbs, and of course the Suburbs were this big band, you know, with giant personalities and the skinny ties and the suit, you know, I mean, they had the whole package.
Yeah.
And Husker Du were like three guys who, like, you know, just looked down, and they were all kind of grubby and stuff like that. So, you know, in my young mind, I really wasn't fascinated yet by the genius that was, you know, Grant Hart and Bob Mould and Greg Norton. But yeah, so I saw them mostly, but they were getting pretty big by then. They weren't really playing, like Husker Du wasn't playing the Entry anymore. They were playing the Main Room. They were out touring. And
When you say the Main Room, you mean First Avenue?
oh
Yeah.
yeah, First Avenue.
I've been there, so I know it, but a lot of people are like,
Yeah,
what? The Main Room?
yeah, yeah. So yeah, and my, like, my peers, or the bands that were playing a lot currently when we were playing, that were, you know, Soul Asylum was getting really
Yeah.
big. And there was also a band called Trip Shakespeare,
Oh yeah.
which
Yeah.
had Matt and Dan Wilson, the brothers, and then Dan Wilson went on to form Semisonic. So, and then there were other bands like the Widgets, and like I said, we played with Babes in Toyland and Zuzu's Petals, and yeah, the Replacements and Husker Du were a little bit before the time when we were out and playing. They were already
Established. Yeah.
oh yeah, they were
Yeah.
big time.
It's amazing because you look at the Minneapolis scene, and everything you just said, it's the quality, not the quantity. Right? Might not be as many bands as other cities, but there's really good bands that came from that scene. There still
Yeah,
are.
and there's, you know, I think Minnesota is brutal in the winter. And so there's kind of this like pride, you know, that you're going to be hauling your amp up, you know, rickety icy stairs, you know, to a show, or you know, it was just, it's like this point of pride that, you know, if we can get through these winters, we can pretty much do anything, you know.
I was there in January once. I used to go on the road with a lot of bands when I worked for A&M Records. I can't
Oh,
remember. I
nice.
think it might have been the Buzzcocks at the First Avenue with the Doughboys opening, because the
Wow.
Doughboys went through A&M, and I'm pretty sure but there was a woman there, Mary Buzard. you know, Mary, she worked for A&M. She kind of showed me around. In fact, we were at the club and Lori Barbero was there. I remember this, and I'm like, you got to introduce me to Lori.
Yeah.
This is around 94. This is after Babes kind of like went through their whole thing, you know. And I'd already got that book, you know, that Lori wrote was fantastic, you know. So let's talk about the Clams. You said you started around 85. I know you guys put out like 3 singles and you had a little buzz going. Now, something I have to ask you because I just watched it this morning.
Oh
You in
no.
Stillwater. Was that really a state prison? Because I
Oh
couldn't
yeah.
tell. You can't tell by watching the video that you're actually in a state prison playing, but you guys were great. That was a really good set. I watched like 4 or 5 songs.
Oh, thank you. Um, so yes, it was Stillwater State Prison, which is a minimum security prison. I mean, and it's funny because it's called Stillwater State Prison, but it's actually in Bayport in the town that I grew up in. And so growing up next to the prison, and they had, like I said, it was minimum security. So they had trustees that were able to, like, you know, be out and about. But I remember as a little kid, if the siren went off, that meant you had to go home because that meant that there was an escape. And
Did that happen a lot?
I remember happening a couple times. The
Wow.
thing was, though, that if someone was to escape from the prison, they're going to go straight across to Wisconsin. They're not going to stick around in Bayport, you know. They're going to like take off. So it was, you know, I mean, it was just kind of a normal thing. The parents are like, oh yeah, you know, just make sure you come home when you hear the siren. You know, it was not really something that we were worried about or even thought about. But anyway, so we found out about this gig through another band that we had played with a lot. The state prison, the inmates in the summertime would raise money for the muscular dystrophy. You know, it was I mean, and by raise money, it was like they had a little carnival in the yard and a dunk tank and, you know, stuff like that. And one of the things they got to do was have a couple bands play. And I'm pretty sure they didn't show the audience because maybe it was something that was not allowed.
Oh yeah, right.
You
That was a
know,
dumb question I asked. You're right. Why would
plus,
they show the criminals?
yeah, plus the thing that we thought was so funny is that they, you know, we would play a song and then they would all clap and then they would just sit quiet for the next one. And, you know, I mean, we were thinking, oh, they're going to be all rowdy and crazy, but they were on their best behavior. And it was probably because if they weren't, they wouldn't be able to do things like this. So
and this was a men's prison, right?
yeah. Yep.
So how was it for an all-female band to play in front of a crowd like that?
You know, like I said, they were so kind and very respectful, and we had a great time, and they were, you know, a captive audience. They couldn't go anywhere, you know. And then after, you know, this was in the middle of the summer and we were in this big hot like auditorium, or maybe it had been a lunchroom or something like that. And we went out, and then we all volunteered to get in the dunk tank. So they were really happy about that.
I'm sure they were.
But yeah, no, it
Did you get dunked?
2 years. Yeah, I mean, we each took turns, and, they all lined up and shot their, whatever at the target. But we did it for 2 years in a row, I think, 87 and 88. But it was really fun, really nice experience. Yeah, it was great. I
If
mean, it
you,
was weird going through, the gates, and then, you know, bringing our stuff through. I mean, it was weird kind of being behind gates and going in, but yeah, it was fun. It was so long ago. Oh my gosh.
and for you people out there watching and listening right now, you can find the whole show on YouTube, because I did. That's how I
It
found it.
is.
I just did the Clams Minneapolis search, and there it was. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I got to watch this. Um, Okay, here's the tricky part of this story before we get to the whole comeback and everything. You just stopped playing, and it's kind of common knowledge that everyone knows now because the words got out that you didn't play for like 25 years.
Mhm.
So what happened that made you just decide to stop playing? Was it was it kids? Was it a job? I mean, what happened?
Um,
Because you're such a rocker, and it just seems odd that you would just stop.
well, I had some experiences that um that just kind of slowly affected me in a way that I just kind of shut down. Um, I had been out in New York and dealt with some people, and came back and then played with some friends, and then I as I said before, I was a single mom, but then ended up getting married in 1993, and then had two little girls. And I mean, it's like nighttime is prime kid time,
Yeah,
you know
I get
and
it.
and I just couldn't even imagine wanting to play again. It seemed like such another world, like another person. It was really difficult to get the energy or the passion. um and yeah, I
Were,
just
were
I it just
you were you like still paying attention to the music scene or going to see bands or anything at all? Listening to music? I mean,
um not not a whole lot in an active way myself. My husband at the time was the general manager of First Avenue, though.
oh, okay.
So I still was able to see bands and meet a lot of people. And I mean, those were the years that I got, Marianne Faithful came through, and I got to meet her and got to meet Debbie Harry, and, met Jonathan Richman, and just so many people. So I was still kind of, I mean, I was able to be a big, huge fan, and but really stepped away from not wanting to play or anything. I'm really glad I didn't give away any of my equipment, though. I just held on to it. But yeah, I mean, I still knew what was going on. I still loved listening to music and listening to new things coming out, but it was like those people were on the other side, you
Yeah.
know.
So, when did something click for you and you said, okay, I'm going to get back into it now?
Well, that was definitely during the pandemic. Um, the it just felt like everything was so crazy, like the world could just end tomorrow. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, the world was going through something that we'd never experienced before. And I mean, I've been working this full-time job at the university, and
Of Minnesota?
yeah, University of
I love that
Minnesota.
campus. I've been there. It's a great
Yeah,
campus.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And basically, all I was doing was working because there was really nothing else to do. And it just felt like I need to have something in my life that nourishes me, and something that makes me feel like, you know, I'm contributing to the world. And so, and a couple other people that I knew, there's this one musician, Bryn Arns, who had the band Flip, and he was kind of nudging me. He's like, you know, you got to play again. And so I started writing some songs, and then I played with a few people. And Jerry Lefkowitz is an amazing guitar player that I had worked with when I came back from New York, and he had remained a really good close friend. And so I said, well, let's get together and play just for fun. And we recorded music at, it's called Dreamhog Studios, run by Steev Price, who is an amazing musician. He was in a band called Rex Daisy. He also plays with the Suburbs now. And he plays with a band called Trailer Trash, which is a huge band here in Minneapolis. So we recorded just a couple songs, and I put them out on Bandcamp. And that's when I met Georgia Conley Rahman and Travis Rahman, who you know, they're big musicians, Miss Georgia Peach.
I was going to ask you how
Yeah.
you got hooked up with Lou, and you're answering the question for him.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, Georgia said, you got to send this stuff to Lou, and he'll love it. And, you know, so she's completely instrumental in making that connection. And I ended up recording a few more songs, and then Lou said, I'll put it out on Rumbar. So that's when New Tricks came out in 2022. So that was kind of the beginning of it, and it's just been super fun and really amazing to have music that was like an idea in my mind, and then it ends up being played and other people listening to it. I mean, that's just a crazy concept, you know. It's so great.
Whose idea was it to re-release or to put out the Clams collection CD?
Oh, that was all Lou.
So he just asked you if you had because that's a great great compilation. I love your version of We're an American Band.
Yeah.
And there's just something special about hearing all women do that song, you know. It's fantastic.
You know, the thing about the Clams is we were a great live band. We had so much fun. We didn't have any management, though, that would have probably pushed us into writing and recording more. So we put out two 7-inch singles, and then we put out an EP. So I'm imagining that if we had had a manager or someone kind of guiding us, they would have said, you got to get more product out. We were just having so much fun playing, and it's such an immediate gratification to play live, whereas writing and recording is the hard stuff. You know, it's the stuff you got to work on, but that stuff is really lasting, you know, whereas a live show, it's like, well, you had to be there, you know. But no, we had so much fun, and we would just do ridiculous covers like We're an American Band and
Sweet Jane, I remember, was on there, and
yes,
a
Sweet
couple of other.
Jane. That was a
Yeah,
great one.
you're just
Yeah.
showing your love for American rock and roll. I like
Oh,
it.
totally. Totally.
Um, New Tricks. I'm not the only one was the first single off that, but I want to, and which is really good, by the way. But I wanted to talk to you about The Devil in the Details,
Yeah.
because the video for that is great.
Oh,
You
thank
got
you.
the barber shop, the record store. What's the backstory on that video? Because really well done.
Um, well, the cool thing is that my son directed it. That's what my
Oh,
son, he's a filmmaker. Corey Lawson, he lives out in LA now. He he directed it. Um, John Clifford, who's the tall uh hairdresser, he's a very great Minneapolis music booster. He's got his shop downtown called Hi-Fi Hair and Records. So he's got
oh,
a beauty salon, right, and a record store.
that's fantastic.
Yeah, and he collects. I mean, he
I
put
saw.
that whole thing together. It's an amazing place. He's a huge booster of Minneapolis bands. He's a fantastic person. And I came to him with this idea. Can we use your place? Can you be in it? Can you play my love interest? And then
You guys had
uh
a nice dance at the end of it.
oh yeah. And then my daughter and a couple other friends are in the video. So yeah, I mean it was very, very cool. It was a very cool day, and I'm really proud of that video.
And you folks out there have to check the video out. It's really cool. And that room is, I didn't realize that the barber shop and the record store were the same place. It was
Yep.
really neat. Really
Yeah.
neat.
No, it's really cool. He yeah, he's just the best, and just a very kind person, really wonderful, really talented guy. He's put on, they have a loading dock in the back of the building, and he puts on shows in the summer back there, and hundreds of people come, and watch the bands. And yeah,
Is
it's
that right in Minneapolis?
that's right in downtown Minneapolis. Hi-Fi Hair and Records. Yeah, you gotta look it up. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I'd say. And I know that you put out a Christmas single last year too, because I remember getting Lou and I are very good friends,
Oh
so
yeah.
I get all his stuff. And I was curious, I've been curious for a while about Cindy Lawson. I'd
Yeah.
heard of the Clams. I heard about the Clam. Everyone did, you guys were like a underground garage rock band that people knew about. Um, so this is interesting because if it did come out yesterday, because today's November 16th, the show obviously is not airing live, but your new record, EP, Don't Come Crying to Me, came out yesterday.
Yeah. See, I was just when I was trying to keep track of everything, because I also have CD Baby that distributes it digitally, and then I've got Bandcamp, and then I've got Lou and his whole thing, and then our actual record release party is the 22nd, next week, Drinksgiving. And uh I put 11:15 in some places and 11:16 in other places, and then realized my mistake, and then thought, fuck it, I'll just put it out on the 15th. So I pulled the trigger yesterday. And so yeah, so now it's available everywhere.
Well, I've been checking it out. It's great because that's the
Oh,
beautiful thing about Bandcamp. You can go there and listen to the songs, and I love the single. It's titled, it's a killer track. It's really good. And what's next? I mean, what do you plan on doing now that you got I mean, all of a sudden you went from like mom and college job and all that to now you're a rock star again. So what's going to happen now?
Well, I kind of feel lucky because I get to pave my own way as a 62-year-old rock star,
Right.
Um, I I feel really fortunate to be playing with three guys that are totally into it and up for playing. We do out of town shows and they're really fun. Green Bay is an amazing place to play.
Really? Wait
It's
a minute. I didn't ask you. Are you living in Minneapolis now?
Yep,
Or are you,
I'm still in Minneapolis.
how
Yeah.
far are you from Green Bay?
Oh my gosh, it's a hike. It's like 4.5 hours or
Not
so.
bad.
But yeah, Green Bay is a great place to play. Tom Smith out there with um, UFO museum and record store. And then we've been down to the Octopus in Cedar Falls, which is a great bar, owned by
Idaho, right?
no,
Iowa.
Iowa.
Sorry,
Um,
I always get Idaho and Iowa mixed up.
yeah,
Potatoes. Which one has the potatoes?
you must remember the band House of Large
Oh
Sizes.
yeah, yeah.
Well, the Octopus is owned by Dave and Barb.
Oh, nice.
And they have a great bar down there, so we played there. Yeah, I obviously want to keep playing. I want to get out to the East Coast and play next summer. I want to record some more. Yeah, I want to keep going for as long as I can.
That's fantastic. It's a great story. It's a great
Yeah,
story.
thank you.
Do you listen to a lot of music now? Do you listen to a lot of new bands, or I mean, what are you listening to?
Yeah, I love there's so much good music in Minneapolis locally. There's so many good bands. Of course, BB Galini,
Oh
which
yeah.
is Georgia and Travis's band. Plus there's a band that we played with a lot called Annie and the Bang Bang, and they're great. There's the two bands that I'm playing with at the record release, Spit Takes, who have a single out that's called Teeth, that's been on that Radio Alliance charts. They're getting play with that, and they're playing with us. And Surly Girly, who are just this, kind of like the Slits, kind of this crazy, confrontational punk rock band. So we've just been, we just have this in Minneapolis. You could go out every night of the week to see a band, to see an original band,
That's great.
and we're just so lucky. We're just really, really lucky.
Well, you just did a great commercial for the Minneapolis music scene.
Yeah, it is. It's fantastic. Yeah, we are just so there's and it the age range of people playing, I mean, like Surly Girly, they're in their 20s, and then there's other bands that are up, my vintage, like the Silver Teens, who just released a full album. Those guys, 60s. And it's like, yeah, we got it all here.
Wow. Well, Cindy, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. Really great story. I'm happy for you. I hope you keep making music. It sounds like you're going to be making music. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll see you on the East Coast one of these days.
Oh, I'd love to.
All right.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much for having me.